Story 1 by Alex.
I'm Alex from Chicago. Last summer, tired of the icy wind that blows through my city's bones, I decided to escape to San Antonio. The images of the Riverwalk had seduced me. Golden lights twinkling over the water, stone bridges covered in wet moss and hanging vines, and an air of living history that promised something special. My friend Tom, obsessed with his phone and always looking for the perfect photo, came with me. We booked an overnight boat ride for our first night, imagining a peaceful experience under a starry sky. But what I experienced that night still haunts me like a shadow that refuses to fade away. We got on the boat after 11 p.m. The river vibrated with life. The echoes of laughter from the restaurants wafted in the air. The clinking of glasses mingled with the gentle splash of water against the stone walls eroded by decades. The guide, an older man with a deep voice that seemed to come from the bowels of the earth, told stories about the construction of the Paseo, pointing out old buildings with sloping roofs and darkened windows. I lost myself in the reflections of the water. The yellow and red lights twisted like luminous snakes, dancing in hypnotic patterns. Tom, sitting next to me, barely looked up from his screen, complaining about the intermittent Wi-Fi. Everything seemed ordinary until we passed under a bridge shrouded in shadows, where the lights on the shore suddenly went out, as if an invisible hand had pulled the cable off. A biting cold enveloped me, an impossible cold on a warm, sticky summer night. My breath condensed in front of me, forming a white cloud that floated for an instant before dissolving into darkness. I felt a prick in the back of my neck, an insistent pressure that forced me to turn my head towards the shore. There she was, a motionless woman, dressed in an elegant suit from the 20s. He wore a loaf hat, tilted, eerily twisted, and a pearl necklace that emitted a faint glow under the light of a distant lantern. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, as if it were made of wax about to melt, and her eyes were deep, empty black wells, riveted into me with an intensity that took my breath away. He didn't blink. He didn't move. He just looked at me, as if he knew a secret that I hadn't yet discovered. I nudged Tom, my voice trembling. "Do you see that woman on the shore?" I whispered, pointing slyly. He frowned, adjusted his moisture-fogged glasses, and looked where he was pointing. "There's no one, Alex. What's the matter? Did the heat hit you?" I looked again, and the place was empty. No sign of her, just the twisted shadows of the trees and the inky black river. The boat moved slowly, but my skin was still bristling, as if 1,000 tiny needles were pricking me incessantly. I tried to focus on the guide's voice, which was now speaking of a tragic flood decades ago, but each shadow on the shore seemed to stretch toward me, like eager fingers seeking to catch me. Among the trees, I thought I saw a tall, thin figure that vanished when I tried to focus on it, a blur that made me doubt my senses. My heart was pounding so hard that I feared the sound would reverberate against the walls of the boat. Then I felt it. Soft, wet footsteps behind me in the boat. The sound was unmistakable, a rhythmic chap-chap, as if someone were walking in a shallow puddle. I turned so fast that I almost fell into the water, but there was nothing. Just the wooden boards, worn and dry in the dim light, and the dark river below. Tom was still on his phone, muttering about the lack of signal, and the guide showed no sign of noticing anything out of the ordinary. An icy breath brushed the back of my neck, so cold that it burned, and a shiver ran from my feet to the crown of my head. I didn't dare look back again, but I spent the rest of the walk with my hands clenched, my knuckles white as bone, praying that the pier would appear soon. As I went down, my legs trembled as if I had climbed a mountain. We walked to the hotel under the lights of the Paseo, and just when I thought she had escaped, I saw her again. He was a few yards away by the river, pointing to the water with a pale, bony hand that seemed to stretch longer than natural. Her dress fluttered as if it were submerged, soaked and heavy, and her face showed an infinite sadness that froze the blood in my veins. I blinked, and he disappeared, leaving only the echo of his gaze piercing me. That night, I didn't sleep. Her eyes repeated themselves in my mind, black and deep as abysses, and every time I closed my eyes, I felt that she was closer, her icy breath brushing my ear. The next morning, at breakfast at the hotel, I asked other tourists if they had seen a woman in period dress. They looked at me like I was crazy, some with nervous smiles, others looking away at their plates. Tom told me to stop making up nonsense, but as I ate, I looked out the window and saw her reflected in the river, watching me from below with those empty eyes. There was no one on the shore, only the still water and its impossible image. My fork fell to the floor with a metallic thunder, and Tom scolded me again. "You're paranoid," he said, but I knew what I saw, what I felt. I researched on my phone and found rumors about the Lady of the River, a spirit of a woman who drowned in the 1920s after losing her lover in a tragedy. They say that she appears to visitors, looking for something or someone, trapped in a limbo between the living and the dead. I thought he was a cheap legend for tourists, but I couldn't ignore the feeling of his presence, the weight of his gaze following me. I returned to Chicago relieved, believing that I had left everything behind, but I had not. Every time I pass near a lake, a river, or even a puddle on the street, I feel their eyes on me, watchful. One night, as I washed my face, I looked up at the mirror and saw her behind me. The soaking wet dress dripping black water on the floor, the pearls shining like icy tears, and those eyes riveted on mine. I closed my eyes, counted to 10 with my heart in my throat, and when I opened them, it was gone. But since then, every reflex puts me on guard. Sometimes in the mirror, I see a flash of his hat in the corner, or I hear a whisper that says my name, soft and cold as the river. I don't know if she followed me from San Antonio, or if I'm losing my mind, but I'm afraid that one day she won't disappear when she opens her eyes, and I'll find myself face to face with her, unable to run away from her silent grip. Story 2 by Elena. I'm Elena, a waitress in a restaurant on the Paseo del Rio for 5 years. My days are a mess of wobbly trays, steaming tacos, spilled margaritas, and rowdy tourists asking for more hot sauce. My escape has always been the back path, a silent path by the river, where a giant willow tree spreads its branches over the water, like a green veil woven by time. After a tiring shift, I would sit there, letting the murmur of the river and the chirping of crickets wash the stress off my shoulders. But a few weeks ago, that tree stopped being my refuge and became a nightmare that I can't erase. It was a hellish night, with tables full until midnight and a sticky heat that seeped through the open windows of the restaurant. I walked out the back door at 1 a.m., my feet throbbing inside my worn-out sneakers and uniform smelling of fried foods, sweat, and spilled sauce. The path was shrouded in shadows, lit only by lanterns that flickered as if they were about to go out forever. As I passed under the willow tree, a cold suddenly hit me, a dry, biting cold that did not belong to that wet night. The air changed. The fresh scent of the river was replaced by a sweet, rotten stench, like withered flowers left too long in a vase. I stopped, looking up at the willow branches, which hung motionless, heavy, as if they were watching in silence. I kept walking, shaking my head to dismiss the feeling. Then I heard it, a whisper, low and raspy as if someone were talking close to my ear, brushing against me with cold breath. I didn't understand the words, but the sound chilled my blood, a knot tightening in my chest. I turned quickly, expecting to find a lost drunk or a companion playing a cruel joke. But the path was deserted, the shadows lengthening in the dim light. "It's tiredness," I muttered, though my heart beat like a runaway drum. I took another step, and the whisper returned, clearer this time. "Stay. Don't go." My pulse soared, a frantic throbbing echoing through my temples. I looked at the river, looking for a boat, a voice on the bank, any explanation. But I saw only the black water and the reflection of the willow, which seemed larger, more alive, as if its branches were breathing at a slow and sinister pace. I felt a rub on the back of my neck, cold and slimy, like wet fingers sliding down my skin, leaving an icy trail. I screamed, turning, and tripped over a twisted root sticking out of the ground. I fell to my knees, the impact shaking my bones, and as I looked up, I saw her, a silhouette hanging among the branches of the willow, swinging like a broken pendulum in the still air. I couldn't make out his face, shrouded in shadows, but his eyes shone in the gloom, two white dots fixed on me, piercing me. The whisper became a roar inside my head. "Stay with me, forever." I stood, my legs shaking like leaves in the wind, and ran toward the main path, hot tears burning my eyes. The whispers chased me, echoing in my skull as if the voice had nested inside me, refusing to let go. I came to the lights of the promenade, panting, the air tearing at my throat like broken glass, and I looked back. The silhouette had disappeared, but the branches of the willow tree moved on their own, reaching the air like hungry hands seeking to catch me. At home, I locked myself in my room, shivering under the covers, cold sweat sticking to my skin. I looked in the mirror and saw a fine scratch on the back of my neck, red and fresh, as if a sharp fingernail had deliberately marked me. I tried to convince myself that I did it when I fell, but that night I dreamed of her, a woman under the willow, her long black hair covering her face, her hands hanging down like wet rags, whispering to me to go back to the river. I awoke to a choked scream, sweating, with the echo of his voice still in my ears, soft and persistent as an undercurrent. Days later, I had to go back to work. As she waited tables, I looked out the window and saw her under the willow tree, motionless, staring at me from a distance. His hands hung loosely, dripping with something dark that stained the floor, and his head was tilted at an impossible angle, as if his neck had been broken long ago. That night, as the restaurant closed, I felt the same cold and heard the whisper again, closer, more urgent, as if it were behind me. I ran home, my breath short, but when I opened the door, the mirror in the hallway stopped me in my tracks. Behind my reflection was her, a crooked face, eyes black as bottomless pits, and a smile that wasn't human, stretching too far. I screamed and closed my eyes, counted to 10 with trembling hands, and when I opened them, I was gone. But he didn't leave completely. Every night I feel his presence in my room, a cold that creeps under the door like fog, whispering my name in the darkness. Sometimes, as I pass by the willow tree on my way to work, the branches seem to lean toward me, their leaves brushing the air like anxious fingers. In my bathroom mirror, I swear I see her shadow approaching, a blurry figure that fades when I look directly at her. I don't know if he's waiting for me in the river or if he's already living with me, an echo I can't silence. I'm afraid that one day I'll answer her call without realizing it, drawn by that voice that envelops me, and find myself walking towards the willow. unable to turn back, trapped in her eternal embrace. Story 3. By Miguel. I'm Miguel, an art student in San Antonio. The Riverwalk has always been my creative sanctuary. The reflections of the water that change in daylight, the lamps that dye the night amber and red tones, the mix of bustle and calm that awakens my inspiration. A month ago, I decided to paint in a secluded area near an old pier, a forgotten corner where tourists don't come, and the silence feels heavier. I thought it would be a quiet day, just me, my notebook, and the river as a muse. But what I experienced that day made me swear never to approach the water again with a brush in my hand, and it still haunts me in every stroke I try. It was a Saturday afternoon. The sun was still burning overhead, but a cool breeze carried a smell of wet earth and moss that enveloped me as I walked. I sat on the edge of the pier with my notebook, sketching the reflection of a bridge in the water, its stone arches covered with cracks, the shadows that stretched like dark fingers on the surface. There were few people. Some runners trotted past, their footsteps echoing in the rotten wood. A family took quick photos and left laughing. And soon I was alone, with the river as my only companion. The water was still, a dark mirror reflecting the blue sky, until something broke the calm. Small bubbles rose to the surface, slow at first, then bigger and faster, as if something was breathing from the depths, exhaling patiently. I leaned in, intrigued, thinking of a curious fish or a hidden current. Then I saw them. Two human eyes, bright and open, floating in the liquid gloom. There was no face, no body, just those eyes staring at me, motionless and alive, with a glow that did not belong to this world. I backed away with my heart in my throat. A scream caught in my chest like a stone. My pencil fell to the floor, bouncing off the wood with a dry echo, and I looked around for someone to confirm it. But I was alone, silence falling on me like a slab. It's a reflection, a play of light, I repeated to myself, taking a deep breath to calm myself, although my hands trembled uncontrollably. I went back to my notebook, determined to ignore it, but the drawing had changed. Where the bridge used to be, there was now a face without a mouth, with those same eyes, large and empty, looking at me from the paper. He did not remember having traced it. My mind was blank, an empty canvas. I tossed the notebook to the dock with a gasp and heard a gurgling sound, like a muffled voice emerging from the river, deep and wet, whispering something I couldn't decipher. I stood motionless, staring at the water, and the eyes reappeared, closer, almost touching the edge of the pier, shining with an intensity that pierced me. I screamed and ran, leaving my backpack behind, the sound of my breathing filling the air like a roar. As I fled, I heard wet footsteps following me, splashing on the dry ground as if something was chasing me from the river. I didn't look back. I came to an area with people, and the footsteps stopped, dissolving into the din of voices and laughter. I thought I had imagined everything, that stress or tiredness had broken me. But when I got home, my backpack was heavier, as if I was carrying a weight I didn't recognize. I opened it with trembling hands and found my notebook, although I was sure I had abandoned it on the dock. I flipped through the pages with clumsy fingers. They were all full of those eyes. Some appeared surrounded by bony hands that seemed to come out of the paper, others with scribbles that looked like crooked, indecipherable words, like broken language. The last page made my blood run cold. A drawing of me on the dock, with a figure made of water behind it, its eyes shining like headlights, and a translucent hand perched on my shoulder, dripping onto my silhouette. It was not my style. It was not my stroke. Someone or something had done it for me. That night I burned the notebook in the backyard, watching the flames devour every page, the smoke rising in grey spirals that smelled of ash and fear. But it wasn't enough to get me out. Since then, I've not been able to escape the river. Every time I turn on a faucet or take a shower, I hear that gurgling sound, as if something is lurking underwater, waiting with infinite patience. One night, I looked out the window and saw her, a soaking wet figure in the alley, with water dripping from her body in black puddles, those eyes glowing in the dark like cursed lights. I drew the curtains, my heart pounding, but the next day I found puddles in my living room, little circles of black water that had no explanation, as if he had entered while he was sleeping and left his mark. I tried drawing again, looking to get my art back, but my sketches always end with those eyes, although I swear I don't trace them. Once, as I looked in the bathroom mirror, I saw a glint in my own eyes, a glow that wasn't mine, as if something had crept inside me and breathed inside me. I don't know what it is or what it wants, but I feel that it marked me forever. Sometimes I pass by the paseo and look at the water, wondering if returning will free me from this, or sink me deeper into its abyss. I'm afraid that if I come back, I won't come back alone. Or worse, that I'm no longer alone and I haven't noticed, that those eyes are inside me, growing in silence, waiting for the moment to open fully and drag me with them to the bottom of the river. Did you feel the cold running down your back with these stories? San Antonio's Riverwalk holds dark secrets beneath its waters, and these three souls, Alex, Elena, and Miguel, discovered it in the most terrifying way. Which of these visions made your blood run cold? The reflection of a lady lost in time, the whisper of a willow tree that won't let go, or the eyes that emerge from the river to claim whatever it is they seek? Let me know in the comments, and if you've ever felt an unexplained presence on the river walk, or in any dark corner of the world, share your story. Maybe next night, your experience will be the one we narrate under the moonlight. Like it, subscribe to Mr. Night Terrors, and get ready for more stories that will steal your sleep. Because here, in the gloom, we know that you are not as alone as you think. Something is watching you from the shadows, waiting for its turn. Do you dare to look back?